Hello, guys. Welcome back. I know it's been a few weeks. I just had a lot going on. Birthday, family in town, all kinds of stuff happening. But over those past few weeks, I haven't stopped with the gearing. One of the pieces of gear I started using, I've had it for a while, but I've never really gave it the time of day. Um, but I started carrying a multi-tool more frequently. And I have the Wave, I have the Surge, got 300, but nothing ever really fit that EDC type thing with the durability, capability, and that feel that you get when utilizing something. It's got to feel good while carrying it, but also while using it. That's a fine balance. The Surge, unstoppable, but you know you're carrying it. It's a brick in the pocket. There's never really a good pocket for it. You've got to carry it off body or on your belt, and that can get hairy with, if you've got a firearm on you and then you've got a belt pouch for your EDC kit, and then you've got one for your Leatherman, and you start to feel a little like impersonating like the guy who has all the things on his belt trying to look like tactical cop, but he's not. Um, I don't want to do that. So I'm always trying to find that balance of capability, size, all that. Well, one thing I've been carrying recently that I kind of fell in love with, and it is the SOG PowerPint. And so this actually has become my favorite new everyday carry multi-tool. And I want to kind of talk about that a little bit. So previously, like I said, I've carried the Wave, all of those, but those are more of like a one-stop shop. So if I were to carry the Wave or the Surge, I probably wouldn't carry a dedicated knife like some of these two, some of my favorite EDC knives, Bug Out and the Freeman uh, flipper. I think it's a 451 flipper, which you've seen in my EDC video, which I can put a link on in the description for you guys if you want to check that out. But this has become my new favorite everyday carry multi-tool. And I wasn't sure about it because I have one of the larger SOG multi-tools and it was a bit of a letdown, but I think they've done this one way better. One of the biggest issues I had with the other one, which I also talked about at length in my multi-tool video, which I can also link in the description, that's the benefit of doing all of these videos separately, is these gears. In the other one, those gears are sticking out and they're so sharp. However, in this one, they did it right. The gears are protected, they're not sharp, it won't scratch anything other than like standard multi-tool metal on something soft, but they nailed it. Even open, it's pretty protected, very little, maybe a little bit out in the edge, but it's great. Also, another thing to note, I complained about having to open these jaws really wide, this handle really wide. I don't know if the gear ratio is different on these little guys, but I don't feel that here. Like, it's much more manageable. You've got a really great grip. Those pliers are phenomenal. Nice, maybe I can get that in the light. Nice, precise tip. Look at that. No wiggle. I mean, there is no wiggle room. They did this right. I think they nailed that. So, and that's the primary function, right? They did actual wire cutters. They're cutters, not anvil style. They're like the scissor style. The grip is great. Nose is great. You'll see some wear and tear on these. I've used these. Even though I've been away for a few weeks, that doesn't mean I stop carrying stuff and working on stuff every day. I've got a baby on the way, so all kinds of stuff have been built, all things have been assembled, lots of preparation happening. Now let's start kind of diving into some of the other pluses. A few things. Everything is outside accessible. And I typically don't like the way SOG does their tool implementations. I think it's usually pretty chintzy, I would say. But I think they did a lot of really good stuff here. I'm not saying that they've repaired all of their all of the problems I have with them, but I think they did a really great job with the tool set on this. There are a few little confusing pieces, but I will talk about that. Um, but let's start off from the top going down on each side. So scissors, good scissors. I don't like them as much as Victorinox, but they're good. They'll cut fine threads. The only thing I typically use my Victorinox for is to cut nails, my fingernails and stuff. Hygiene. These aren't great for that. I think they're a little too stout. They cut well, but they're too stout for fingernail cutting. If you cut them with these, you'll still have pretty long fingernails, in my opinion. They're just not fine enough for that. But for everything else, fabrics, paper, all that stuff, I think it does a phenomenal job. They're stout. The spring is nice on these. It's got an actual spring bar instead of kind of Victorinox's way of little spring. The other one is a bottle opener. Now, this is where I start to get a little confused. You would think that, like Victorinox, this is a screwdriver. It's not. It is literally just a fingernail pull. So you have a dedicated bottle opener. Not a bad thing if you drink a lot of bottled beverages, but it's a little weird that it's a one tool. They could have made that into a flathead screwdriver or something, in my opinion. Um, I don't know what their thought process behind that was, but it is good for what it is. It works. I've used it, um, so it is good. They've got a 3D Phillips head. Now, it is like more of a Phillips 1 than a Phillips 2, so it's a little bit small, but again, it works perfectly fine. Another thing they have, it's kind of dedicated and a little weird. This is the can opener. Now, I did end up having to grind that on my own to make it sharp. It would not cut out of the box. It would not open a can out of the box. So I had to grind that down a little bit, but now it works fine. Now, this is where I start to get a little like, maybe they could have done it a little bit better. I use this as a bottle opener 99% of the time. So I don't see a need for this dedicated tool. This works as a bottle opener, works as a can opener. I think it works totally fine without issue. So I feel like they could have done something better here. Maybe a flathead screwdriver, because there isn't a dedicated flathead screwdriver. I felt like a number 1 or number 2 flathead. I wish they would have just made that a flathead screwdriver and then had the bottle opener on the bottom. Would have made it a little bit more useful, but I might be able to modify that. So if I can get away with it, I might chop it here, flatten this end a little bit, make it a screwdriver. I'll consider that because these are pretty sympathetic tools. So when I pull one tool out, the other tools follow with it. So it wouldn't be a big deal for me to be able to get that. Plus, it's so small, I can't dig my fingernails in there anyway to pull that out standalone. It's just not happening. And then the serrated knife, I think, is totally perfect. I mean, it's perfect for the size. I think they've nailed that. The serrations are good. They're not super jagged, not super, they're a little bit more shallow, cuts rope, cuts boxes, cuts paper. I think it does a phenomenal job. I think they nailed that. So let's move on to the other side. They've got the file, a strap cutter or rope cutter, tiny a tiny flathead screwdriver, standard screwdriver, and then you've got your blade. This is the side I think they nailed. I've always had issues with both Gerber and SOG files. They nailed this file. This file is awesome. As you can see, I've got some use there. I've tested the metal saw, I've tested the cross cut, and I've tested the single cut here. All of them work phenomenal. Just the cross, everything works phenomenal. The file, I think I said saw, but it's a file. The files, they nailed it. I think they did a phenomenal job on this. It will work for your fingernails. It will work for wood. It will work for metal, plastics. I've used it for all of those, testing it out, just doing stuff over the past few weeks, and I think they did a phenomenal job on this. So finally, one that's done well. The strap cutter, or the fabric or string or rope, whatever you want to call it, it looks like an emergency cutter. I'm going to call it a strap cutter because that's what it resembles. They also executed that very well. I've used it for 550 cord. I've used it for nylon strings. I've used it for packaging, like Christmas ribbon, but it was for a baby shower. I've used it for clamshell packages. I think they did a really great job. Cardboard boxes, like the tape on Amazon boxes, you can kind of just drag it, cut it open. Again, I think they nailed that tool. The next tool that I do like, however, I think the execution on it is good, but I don't use it all that much. I've used it to play around with some electronics tinkering. I disassembled an old tool that I had just to grab the battery and charging because the rest of the tool didn't work. I keep a lot of those electronics around just in case. It works great. It's a I think it's even smaller. I think it's a .5 flathead screwdriver. I've used it for sunglasses. I think it works phenomenally there. But I had to go out of my way to find things to use for. You might be able to use this for like an awl or like a little bit of a punch, but it's not super sharp. So I don't know how well that will work. Maybe I can try that in an old leather belt or something and let you guys know. It is, again, it's executed well, but I'm just not sure the usefulness of it or how frequently I would use it. Another tool that they've added that I do love is this. I didn't think I would use this all that much, but I use this as a pre-drill or pre-drilling borer. So drywall, I was hanging a lot of stuff. I had those little drywall anchors. I was able to pre-drill some of those to make it easier to go in. I've drilled through drywall into wood. When I needed precision, I would just kind of tap it into a little bit, and then I'd have a place to put nails or screws or whatever it may be. I've scraped with it a little bit. I used it to kind of remove caulking and glue. So I think they've done a phenomenal job with that. But it's very sharp, and the tip did not dull yet, which I think is pretty impressive given what I've put it through. I don't know what steel these are made out of. It can't be all that high end, but it seems to work. I think it's perfect for utility. I think it's up to par with Leatherman's metal and steel. I think they've done a phenomenal job with this little tool. I'm not exactly sure what these holes are for. Maybe if they're just for lightening it, or if this is actually meant for threading. I think it might be a little thick for an actual awl, but maybe I can put that to the test with some fabric, thread some stuff through there and see if it'll punch through and I can actually sew with it. Might be a little bit aggressive, but maybe I can give that a shot in a future project or something. The other thing I really love is the knife. I think they nailed it. I think they did a phenomenal job on this knife. I typically am not a huge fan of these sheep's foot blades. I think I'd prefer an upswept clip point or something like that. But for the size, for the use case, and this actually is a very useful, very capable little knife. It stays sharp, it's flat, so it's easy to sharpen. It's V-ground, it's got a decent thickness for the size. I think it's a great utility knife. Will it replace my full-size folder? No. But does it need to? No. If I've only got this, I've got plenty of knife to work with. I think the steel is adequate. I haven't had to sharpen it yet. I did strop it, but I didn't put it to a stone. I think it works fine. The one other thing that I really love is all of these are locking with this like special back lock. You can kind of see it lift there. Everything locks. So you just push it and you don't have to open it up all the way. So I think the idea is that you could possibly get to it from the side, but I can't. But if you open up just a little bit and then you can squeeze that, push it down, and it closes, and it's so smooth. Over the few weeks that I've had it, this thing is like butterfly knife. I mean, it is, if you've ever used the Leatherman P4 or something like that, how smooth that is because of the magnets. This, I would say, gives you some fidget ability. I think it looks really nice. It's a perfect size. And that pocket clip is phenomenal. It doesn't get in the way. It's not intrusive. I think SOG has really nailed it with this one. I used to say that the Leatherman Juice S2 was my favorite pocket multi-tool of this kind of size and category. I think it's been dethroned. I personally do. I think this is a much better, much more capable, and much more useful tool. It's a perfect little size, especially since Leatherman has gotten away from their mid-size pocket tool. You can't get juices anymore. They've discontinued it. If you're looking for a juice but you can't find one or don't want to pay, rightfully so, ridiculous amounts on the secondary market, honestly, buy this. This thing is phenomenal. It's not super heavy. I keep it in my little coin pocket, or I have some leg pockets I just drop this into. It's got a little lanyard loop if you wanted to swing that out. It just swings on that pivot. I'm not going to pull it out because it's going to break my damn nail. I think this is the new Juice S2. I think they've just nailed it. I don't know why I didn't pick this up sooner. Maybe it was a conflict with the brand and quality that I've had in the past with some of their multi-tools, but I'm glad that I finally started using this. I think it's a great little multi-tool. And like most multi-tools, I forgot one thing. It does have a little measurements on it. I've very rarely ever used it, but if that's your thing, they do have them. It's just hard on the multi-tool this size to really utilize those, in my opinion. But yeah. Oh, a big thing for this. I totally forgot. I think this is one of the coolest pieces of this, and I totally forgot about it. It's so well integrated. Um, you've got your normal bit driver holder here. So you know how I was saying that I didn't like the flathead or Phillips. I think they were a little too small. Well, you just got to carry two of these little guys with you, and you can really clamp down. And what I do like is that it doesn't close all the way. See that extra space that it has when you put a bit in there? I actually like that because then it gives you room to grip and leverage to prevent spinning. So it's centered, it works really well, you've got good torque, it doesn't twist in your hand. I think it does a phenomenal job, and there's a magnet. So when you put that in there, it'll stay. If that's just not the cherry on top, I don't know what else would be. I mean, that looks like a screwdriver. Yeah, I think they did a phenomenal job with this. I've used this a lot as well, um, just because those other tools are a little small. This is actually the tool that I've been using. A lot of my screws have square heads, so I keep this one in my pocket and just use that. But yeah, they really nailed it, guys. I'm telling you, you will not be sorry. This has been a phenomenal find for me. The new and improved Juice S2, in my opinion. So I'm gonna get a lot of hate for that, and I understand. But trust me, try this out if you like that tool. All right, I know it was a little long-winded, but wanted to get something posted for you guys. I'm excited about this, and if you have any questions or anything that I missed, highlights, pieces, features, anything, teach me. So, all right, I will see you on the next one. Later.